Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, April 5th, 2024. We now know the real reason. When people learn about the fair tax, they often ask who's stopping the fair tax from being enacted. They see that the fair tax, a national retail sales tax on new, not used, retail goods and retail services, eliminates the income tax and payroll taxes. It eliminates the need to keep receipts and file tax returns. It gets rid of the IRS, gets rid of tax audits on individuals, and it removes the tax lobbyist's ability to sell tax benefits to special interest groups. It also gets rid of the ability of the wealthy to use special loopholes and exemptions in the tax code to reduce their federal tax liability. It wipes out any federal tax on spending up to the amount needed to provide basic necessities for your family. It fixes the pending insolvency of Social Security and Medicare, eliminates the penalties on earnings, savings, and investment. It also eliminates the tax benefits to importers that send American jobs overseas and punish U.S. producers. And it also wipes out the hidden federal taxes included in the prices of everything we buy. That's 15 to 25% of the price we pay for goods today. Now, this list can continue, but the main thing is that the fair tax takes the power to tax and punish away from the D.C. elites and puts it in our hands. We pay tax when we decide to spend. Until then, all the money we earn goes to us. The fair tax is the biggest transfer of power from D.C. back to the people since the U.S. was founded. Now, while it's not the complete answer, the Scott Rasmussen survey provides a revealing look at a group of Americans that he calls America's Elite 1%. Now, this group is defined as people who make over $150,000 a year, live in densely populated areas, and have postgraduate degrees. Now, here's some of the results from that poll. The Elite 1% represent 1% of the population, and they are extraordinarily influential. A heavy concentration of them went to one of 12 elite schools. About half the policy positions in government and half the corporate board positions in America are held by people who went to one of these dozen schools. They're located in power centers, Manhattan or D.C. They shape the mainstream media narrative, and regarding the issue of cheating to win an election, only 7% of all voters approve of cheating to win, but that number rises to 35% among the elite 1%. However, among the elite group that talks politics every day, an astounding 69% say that cheating is a perfectly acceptable way to ensure that they don't lose an election. Now, most Americans believe we don't have enough freedom, but over 50% of the elite and 70% of the politically involved elite say we have too much freedom. 70% of the elite trust the government to do the right thing and believe that we'd all be better off if they were in charge of making decisions for the rest of us. In conclusion, the elite 1% control most of the important positions in the Biden administration and prior Republican administrations. They control most think tanks, both conservative and liberal ones, and they also control most other policy groups in D.C. The elite 1% don't want the other 99% to control how much federal tax they pay. They don't want to lose the IRS as a way to intimidate and control the other 99%. They don't want to lose their ability to reward their friends and punish their enemies using the tax code, and they certainly don't want to lose the ability to use the tax code to coerce people into acting against their own best interests in order to achieve an outcome that's beneficial to them. The elite 1% in D.C. is ignoring the one real solution that allows us to remain citizens and not subjects, the fair tax. The fair tax is simple, non-invasive, but most of all, it works. The solution: pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? Now, there's going to be a vote on the fair tax in the House of Representatives. We now have the opportunity to force all members of the House to show where they stand. They can vote for the present income payroll tax system, or they can vote for the FAIRtax. They can support the corrupt income tax in the IRS, or they can vote to eliminate it. It can't be any simpler than that. They can hide the true cost of their government, or they can pass the FAIRtax and show everyone the true cost of government on every retail receipt. And finally, they can support the largest transfer of power from government to the people, the FAIRtax, or they can vote against it. Now, if members think the FAIRtax needs to be changed to address a problem, then they can propose that change. Don't let them get away with rejecting the entire bill because it has a perceived flaw that can be easily addressed. And don't think for a minute there aren't any flaws in the income tax. Help bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to FAIRtax.org and invest in AFFT. Help us pass the FAIRtax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.